So hey guys, we're going to have this video talking about just running simple numbers. We'll just call it Numbers 101 in looking at the sale of a property when you're using creative finance. So if you find it helpful, don't forget to like the video. Don't forget to take a moment and subscribe to our YouTube channel as well, and make any comments below. Now keep in mind, on the comments that you make, we're going to have a drawing, and the lucky winner is going to get the chance to spend some time on the phone with me from a consulting perspective, going over your real estate deal, whether it's acquisitions, sales, marketing, anything else you might have along the way. We get a lot of calls from investors who they simply don't know how to run numbers or how to determine where they want to be to sell their home in some format. Let me just throw some basic numbers out there. Let's say, for instance, you own a house. It doesn't matter what your existing debt is, but let's say that the debt on the property is $200,000. And let's say that you bought this home subject to the existing debt. You've got a 4% interest rate, and there's 28 years left on it. Now for me, I use my little handy dandy 12P, HP 12C, and just to look at a fast number in that instance, I know that my principal and interest number is, wow, $990.42 a month. So I like that. So pretty low principal and interest payment. And I don't care what the taxes and insurance are, because that's going to be passed through the back-end buyer on an equal number. So let's assume for this conversation that the ARV, the after repaired value of this house, is $300,000. Okay, good, easy, round number to look at. You know, a traditional realtor will take a deal like this and they'll go, you have to list it for $300,000, what the house is worth. You can't sell it for any more. I get it, but at the end of the day, a house is worth what somebody is willing to pay for it. So in the creative finance world, can we mark that house up a little bit? Absolutely. So what's that markup? Is it 10%, 330, 320, something different? You know, you never have that exact calculation because it's a guesstimate as to what you can mark it up. But let's assume for this initial conversation, we can mark it up to 329.9. So we're going to do basically a 10% markup. So on a sale at 329.9, I want to try to get as close to a 10% down payment as possible. So my first comment is why do I pick 10%? Because in the traditional mortgage world, on a home like this, you may be paying anywhere from $10,000 to $15,000 in closing costs, and you might have a 5% down payment. Well, guess what? You're at $30,000 right there if you have A+ credit. And the good part about the creative finance world is closing costs are usually much, much cheaper. In fact, closing costs that we charge in our offices for something like this are about $2,000, $2,350 or so, I think, total for everything, without title insurance being involved. Apples to apples, you can talk about the down payment versus closing costs all being the same. And so if the buyers come out of pocket $30,000 either way, it's easy to sit there and ask for, let's say, a $30,000 down payment, and it's a good round number. Could you ask $32,000 down? Sure. But for this conversation, let's just say we want to ask for a $30,000 down payment. So now we're going to have basically a $299.9 loan on a $200,000 first lien. And so a lot of investors go, well, what interest rate am I going to charge? And I love the next answer, which is, it depends. Depends on everything. So first off, depends on where the property is located. Is it urban, rural, in a great neighborhood? Not. Is it in a neighborhood that moves quick, doesn't move quick, low days on the market? What's going on in this neighborhood, in this area? And so you've got to kind of get a feel for things. Now, normally, especially in today's marketplace, rent prices are usually substantially lower than owner finance sale prices when you take into consideration your taxes and insurance. And so I usually, when I'm looking at my initial numbers, I look at them in several ways. And I go, okay, if I've got, let's just say, a $300,000 mortgage, I might just consider putting in today's market a 9% interest rate on it. So where did 9% come from? Well, it's a good round number to work with in this regard. It's also understanding where our current mortgage rates are, which are about 7.25, 7.5 on a standard 30-year mortgage if you got a plus credit. If you don't, it could be anything much higher. Look at what DSCR loans are for investors, 8.5, 9, 9.5%, things of that nature along the way too. So at $300,000, if I ran a 9% interest rate, and in this case on a 30-year mortgage, the principal and interest payment is $24,1387. So if I go back and use my initial number of what my first lien payment is, that gives me a positive cash flow at that number of $1,423.45 a month. That ain't a bad cash flow on that transaction. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take what my actual taxes and estimated insurance are, as well as any loan servicing fee is, and I'm going to add it to that 1423 number, and I'm going to get a feel for how does that monthly payment really look in comparison to the house's condition, the neighborhood that it's located in. What does the rental marketplace look like for this home? Are rents for this house $1,900 a month, $2,200 a month, something more, less? I don't know. And I want to get a feel, and this is the hard part about this business, is setting that initial term, because there's no right or wrong answer. Could you raise that interest rate up to 9.5, 10%? Maybe. Could you drop it down some? Well, absolutely. If you're making a cash flow of $1,400 a month, you've got some room to play with. You know, for instance, if it went from 9% to 8% in this situation, it's going to change our monthly payment $200, $212 a month. Okay, so instead of making $1,400, you're making $1,200. Guys, that ain't bad. I'll take that all day long. And of course, the whole key here is where is that number to help me move my house as fast as possible? Because remember, every month that a house sits vacant, it's costing you 1% of the property's value for your loss of principal and interest, taxes, insurance, etc. along the way. And so you want to get a feel for this number. Now, once you come up with that number, and again, no right, no wrong number along the way, you put it out and start your marketing. And the marketplace is going to tell you what's going on. You'll get some people who are just flat out tire kickers to tell you the house is overpriced, too high of a down payment, monthly payment's way out of line. But as you're fielding phone calls from all of your various marketing you're doing, there's going to be an overtone as to what's happening. Either you'll find out that it's pretty close and on point, or you're going to find out that maybe it's too high. Rarely do you find out that it's too low in those instances. And again, most investors will usually price the house up a little bit too much. And so based on what the market is sitting there telling you and you're hearing from people who are calling in, you can start making adjustments. And so where do those adjustments want to be? And you have two ways, actually three ways to adjust your payment amount. You can adjust the down payment if you're getting the feel that people in this particular area where your house is located, they aren't going to have that kind of disposable income. And you'll get a feel for that demographic makeup on whether they're going to have that down payment or not. Next is you can adjust either the sales price down, maybe from $330 to $325 to $320, which of course, as that lowers your loan balance, if you keep your down payment the same, it will of course lower your monthly payment. Or you can lower your interest rate from 9 to 8.5 to 8, heck to 7.5, whatever it might be, to make a decision. I'm working on a house right now in a part of the DFW Metroplex where the house, unfortunately, is very new. It's in a subdivision where they're still building new houses, and the sellers have to move. The problem is the market's dropped a little bit and they're upside down. They actually owe more than it's worth, and there's some tax issues from escrow because the property was being taxed as land and it's now being taxed as a single family home. And the county went back and added the dollars in. And so these people would lose $30,000 if they sold the house, paying the realtor fees and their basic closing costs along the way. They don't want to do it because they don't have it to do. So you're in this situation, they've got a great interest rate, kind of like the example I just threw out. And in this scenario, I don't need to maximize my dollars to sell. I'm looking to get a cash flow, but guys, if I can make $500 a month cash flow, $800 a month, I'm happy with those numbers. I don't have to be making $1,000, $1,200, $1,500 per property to do well in this business. If I can wind up getting in and out of a property pretty quickly, not having to come out of pocket much cash to close the deal, or recoup those dollars quickly and still generate $500, $600 a month in positive cash flow every month for the next 10, 20, 30 years, that ain't bad to do. So you adjust your numbers based on all of these various factors. You can adjust your sales price, your down payment, your interest rate, and of course, based upon the neighborhood where it is, you may want to consider keeping your sales price high if that's a good market value, and maybe lower the interest rate a little bit to drop that payment down to the right location. Because maybe in the next 3 to 5 years, your buyer refinances and you want to recoup that higher equity in the property in some format. On the flip side, based on the area and who your buyer may be, they may not be refinancing or selling the home anytime soon, so therefore you may want to keep your interest rate a little bit higher and bring your price down. And what you do is you learn to kind of massage the transaction appropriately. So there's never a right or a wrong answer. It simply is what's the best answer for this particular property at this time in the market based upon what's going on in the market out there. And as I said earlier, the marketplace will tell you what you need to do in your adjustments. And it truly is a trial by error. So guys, I hope you found that this helped you out in how to market your house a little bit and how to set your pricing structure along the way. If you liked the video, take a minute and like it. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and comment below as well if you have any questions that you'd like to have answered. And guys, don't forget that we're going to have a drawing on our comments, and we're going to pick that one lucky person to get a consultation phone call with me to go over your real estate transaction, your needs, concerns, whatever it might be along the way. And I hope that might be you to get chosen as that particular person.